So if you want to take them on, please,
Sure, sure. Yeah.
please do. All right, let's get going.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Yeah, great presentation. So my name is Ignacio. I'm originally from Argentina, but I live in Miami. I work as fractional head of AI, so companies hire me to help them with their AI strategy. I do mainly governance, like I set up their infrastructure. I build automations. I do full Claude Teams rollout. My background is mainly in technology. I study computer science, work for a couple of corporations, but I'm an entrepreneur. And I built this tool. Now I feel like us as consumer, we are changing. Before we used to go to Google to find our answer, and now we just ask our Claude, our ChatGPT. So there's an opportunity there for business to be part of the AI search. So one of my services that I offer is AI visibility, to help companies to understand where they are in terms of the answers the LLM give to consumers. And I did this Python script for myself. Like when I released my website, I thought, okay, let's start tracking if Claude is like citing me. So I built this instead of paying like 30, 40, $50. I start with this tool that checks if you are part of Claude, if Claude cites your website, and then I evolved it and it checks like the other LLMs like ChatGPT and Python. So where it all started, again, us as buyer are now going to LLMs, and we ask, and I feel like we are trusting more and more the answer. Like what our LLMs are telling us, like we have a certain trust. So it's really important for a business and mainly for B2B, and hopefully like in this big audience, we have people who are creating their SaaS or they are offering services. Regardless of what it is, you want to be part of the AI answer. If someone asks, what's the best, I don't know, something related to your business in, I don't know, your state, your city, you want to be that answer. So I feel it's really important for businesses to keep track of this. And this is a simple tool that, lets you know, and even know if you have like customers, you can tell them where they are. So we are like, nowadays people are tracking like the analytics when the people arrive to the website, but nobody is tracking, not nobody, but not everyone is tracking how they go to your website in terms of the LLMs. So again, instead of paying for it, 29 to 500, there's so many tools and they have dashboard alerts. Like this is a simple open source script. You add the domain, you add the query, and it will check Claude using this built-in. So this is a built-in from Claude that is pretty cool. So the web search tool, what it is, so it lets you do the live query, and what it does, it checks the internet live. So it's not the LLM writing the answer. So it does, like when you ask your LLM, like in Claude, it goes, checks the internet, brings the answer, and it decides what to cite. So there's no like problem with hallucination. It works like someone will do it on their desktop or cell phone. So it's one API call per query per run. So the tool, so what's you can configure, because there's a cost involved. Like you use your API key, and what you can cap is the max uses, like how many searches per call, and I cap it at 5. I think more is enough. Then the prompt, and here the prompt is like you want to give the prompt you want to check. And I always add like I'm researching this as a buyer, so the LLM understand that it needs to do it as a buyer, and you ask it to have the sources, because you want to know if your site, your customer site was cited. And then for the model, I did some trials. It depends on how much money you want to spend, but the Haiku, like the cheap models, works really well. And you want to be mindful of the expenses. Then once you run the query, what it brings. So it doesn't like give you like a blob, like a chunk of text. It gives you back like two blocks of text. One is the answer. You ask for something, like the answer, it created the LLM with the citations. And then the other block is the raw, like when it went to the internet and start like crawling and getting all the different sources, it read them all and then it decided what to cite. And it's important to have them both, because let's say you read like and the script, it goes through all these blocks, it normalizes it, it extracts the domain, it does the duplication, so it tells you if you were cited, the position, and it also checks your competitor, like what are the other sites, like websites that are cited. But what it does, because let's say you were mentioned on the in the text in the raw, let's say on the raw information that it read, perfect, because it's not an SEO problem. Like the LLM was able to get all your website information, but then if you weren't part of the answer, that means there's a problem there, a content problem. So it's pretty cool to have both. And then the script, what it does is then it has to, because the problem with the LLMs is not deterministic. Like you run a query, you run it again, and you could have different answers. So you have to run it multiple times. The default is 2 times. I do between 2 and 5, and then what it does, there's some logic behind, and what it does is it checks where you cited, the position, because it matters. Like when you are like when the LLM gives you the answer when you're on Claude, there's a ranking, and again, we trust this answer. So if you're first, if you're second, it matters from a buyer perspective. So it's good to understand if you were cited, where, what's the position. And here, I don't use an average, because let's say you were first, top 1, and then on the second round, you were 7. If you do the average, it's number 4, but you never were on position 4. So we use the most common position to give you the number, and then it does a score. So every time you run it, it leaves a JSON. So then whenever you run it, like after a week, after 15 days, after a month, you can see the trend. So for me, it was super helpful. Then what I did is I did it like day 1 when I released my website. Like I ran the query and 0, obviously, but it gave me like a baseline. I knew, okay, the Claude is finding my website, but it's not citing me. So what should I do? And that helped me, aside like with the Google Analytics, Search Console, Bing Webmaster, like all the other data, to improve my website. In terms of the content, the structure. So, and this is crazy. Like I said, I do AI visibility mainly for wealth management companies, and I used my script. Like this was an investment fund. I used my Python script to check, like, it was like, what's the best wealth management firm in Miami, and they were mentioned first in Claude, but not in ChatGPT. So I used my script and others to make a proposal. I told them, hey, you are cited number 1 in Claude, but you're not cited on ChatGPT, Perplexity, the other. Do you want me to help you improve? They say yes. I audit their website, all the structure, the frequently asked question, and then we did a workshop where we defined the queries they wanted to win. And I created 65 pages on their website using a lot of their documentation, following like the best practices, and it worked so well. Like I was even surprised how well it worked. This company had, and based on my experience, matters a lot, your internet footprint. If you're famous online, once you do some tweaks on your website and you prepare it for the machines, your web traffic is gonna blow up. And that's what happened with them. And they got a customer, and huge, like more than $100 million customer. Not the deal, but they were like a big, rich family. And it came from ChatGPT, so they were super happy, and it proved that it worked. And I used this script to write the proposal and to do the queries. So what's good about this script is non-determinate. The problem is non-determinism. Like same query, different answer. So you can run it multiple times to have a good answer. Cost control. You can cap it, the uses, and it uses a cheap model. You can always change it, but now I use with Haiku, it's okay. Then you have two visibility levels, like what the LLM, in this case Claude, crawled, review it, and what it cited. So it gives you a lot of information. And then the LLM just writes the answer, Python computes every metric, no self-grading, and one JSON per run. So you can see the trend. So yeah, I invite you all to use it. If you check on my GitHub, I have like the evolution. I have one that you give a domain and it will do a hardcore check on all the structure, like the technical side of a website. And then I have another one because it's good to know, okay, if I'm being cited or not, but it's better or it's really cool to know queries that are not taken. Because what the best practices says, and this is new, so nobody really knows, that to own a query is much easier if nobody has it. You ask something to Claude, if it doesn't have like a source, like, yeah, check, like you ask best lawyer in Missouri, if nothing is showing, it's easier to win, to be that citation than trying to take away from someone who is already cited. So what I did, the evolution is it checks if you are cited and if someone else is cited. If nobody is cited, perfect. But if it does, if someone already took your query, it suggests you different queries that you could own. So pretty cool. So please check my GitHub, and if you have any question, now I'm open. I don't know, raise your hand, share it on the chat. Happy to talk after.